are live. What's up? Spencer Israel. That's Jeff Mackey, that guy on that side of the screen.
Hello.
Hello. What's going on,
Hello.
sir?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of days. Really since we learned over the weekend, or maybe it was Friday, perhaps that GameStop was maybe trying to buy eBay. I thought, oh, you know who's going to have an opinion on this? Jeff Mackey. I cannot wait to talk to him all about it because I know he has thoughts. Am I right? You have thoughts?
Well, of course I have thoughts. I'm super old and jaded, Spencer, so I've seen about everything under the sun. You were more kind of excited about this was than I was like, oh boy,
Yeah,
this again.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm happy to kind of walk through it with the just for the kids and we can talk about crazy crap that happens on financial television. I'm a part of that
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. So
You drive, man.
maybe,
You ask me, tell me what the kids want to know.
well, maybe we should start there. I do think that the interview he gave on CNBC, I guess it was Monday morning, was just an all time performance in not give a fuckery, right? And just
Yeah.
like he just did not care. It looked like he didn't even want to be. It looked like someone was holding him hostage. He didn't even want to be there. He was like, "What am I
Which
even
is
doing?"
weird. Yeah, we're going to get into kind of his history. He's been asked to be on the show before, and it was Lauren Thomas who scooped the story originally for the Wall Street Journal. She's also tried to talk to him before. I know her actually, and so it's not as though he was surprised to find the camera in his bedroom and had to talk to them. He donned his leather coat and decided, I'm just going to give you one word answers and not give one tiny shit about absolute dead quiet on CNBC for 20 seconds at a time. It's a weird approach. I think he was speaking to his audience. You got to remember this is like a roaring kitty kind of guy, and he kind of is precisely the man in terms of just being a semi-evil, depending on how you define evil, hedge fund type of guy.
Yeah.
But he's also kind of the voice of the people, and that voice of the people stuff rings true. The vibe online is like, yeah, that was awesome. How he was telling him to kiss his ass, and they're just like, yeah. I mean, because it made a viral clip for CNBC, which is precisely what they want. He looked like a prick, which might not be what he wants, but he was kind of serving his own purposes, which is totally what he's up to. So
Right,
kind of
right.
works for both of them,
I
in
think
a
I,
very
I I
strange
think
way.
from a pure entertainment perspective, it was fantastic. Uh,
Yeah.
I I liked how you can almost see the CNBC host. You can almost see the thought process from all of them. They're like, all right, let me try. Oh no, okay, no, let me try. Let me try. Right,
Yeah. Let me take a crack at this. Your
right,
math doesn't work. This
right.
doesn't make
Where
sense.
is the
It
money?
doesn't
Where's
make
the money?
sense,
Okay,
and so they all kind of took a whack at it.
yeah.
It's and so on the one hand, like incredibly rude to respond to people that way, and just weird, like, hey, I hear you're buying eBay. How are you gonna pay for it? That's the kind of thing you'd ask a guy if you saw him. "Hey, we're playing racquetball, and it's like, hey, how are you gonna pay for that? I hear you're trying to buy something 20 times your size. Hey, how's that gonna work? I don't understand the question.
Don't worry about it, man. Don't
Don't
worry
worry
about it.
about it. Just go to hell. How dare you? How dare you? The temerity. It seemed like a logical question to me, but again, he's being super rude, but at the same time, everyone's talking about and watching CNBC, so that's kind of how they win anyway. Like, even though it's like I like a few of those people. I'm friends with like half that panel. We won't talk about which half, but like so. On the one side, you want to say, hey, stop being such a dick to my friend. On the other, it's like, wow, awesome. Congrats on just the ridiculously viral weirdo Canadian who's just making television magic for you with like 16 seconds of dead air. So it was weird stuff.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about what we know about this deal in so far that it actually exists, which is not, it doesn't exist yet, but
No,
no.
no. Well, he says he has 5% of the company. It turns out 99% of that is in the form of call options. So, kinda. He also says that he's offering a 40% premium from when he started buying, which means, congrats to Ryan on making money on the call options. We'll get to why that speaks to his incentive package. It's his plan is essentially, it's weird because this isn't a takeover. He doesn't have the guns to make it a hostile takeover. He can't just muscle his way through it. And so his plan is just to sort of insult his way into the CEO role, which is both no one's thought of it before, I don't think. His plan is basically screw you. I could run this in my underwear. You guys have 11,000 employees. I'm going to cut down to just me running eBay in my underwear, and you're going to make a much more money. The company would be more profitable under me. Okay. It begs the question, why would we think you could do that? Because you're awesome at making yourself money. He built Chewy, which is great. They didn't keep him around to run it, which is telling. Since he got to GameStop, it's the company itself also has $9 billion. That's mostly because Ryan sold just a ton of stock and converts and really kind of left people holding the bag. The GME itself, since he became executive chair, is pretty much down 4 or 5%. The company's financial situation has wildly changed to his credit. He closed a ton of their stores. He bought Bitcoin. They're making net income. Most of that's just on interest rates because they sold about 4 billion in convertible notes, which they pay almost nothing, and it converts if the stock goes much higher, and if not, they just get the money back. So he's got this kind of mix of debt and cash, and he just ripped out SG&A, which means he pretty much did what he plans to do at eBay, which is fire everyone. That was probably a better strategy for a moth-ridden, sort of ratty part of the shopping mall store concept like GameStop than it would be for eBay, which has actually been doing kind of well, or at least relative to how they normally do. It's a sleepy company. Could they rip out expenses? Sure. Is he the guy to kind of run it to the next level and make him a better company? you know, not based on what we know so far, and
Well, yeah, I
and
mean,
is that actually what he wants to do? Well, no, based on what we know about him, just in terms of how he's performed publicly in general.
yeah, well, like one of the things that I found ironic about this whole thing is like, hey, it's eBay. Well, we were just talking about eBay like a month ago. We're like, have you seen eBay? Like, holy crap! And maybe if you had done this a year ago, I would have said, all right, there's maybe some value there. eBay's at all-time highs. You could have saved a ton of coin by doing this 12 months ago, right? It would have been
Right,
would have
right.
been a whole lot cheaper. Not as big a deal. But
And that could be because he's elbowing people. He's buying a bunch of calls. He bought freaking 5%
yeah,
of the company in call options, so that might be one of the things that's driving it up. Also, their performance is just kind of improved. It is a sleepy, lazy, fat company. I mean, he's not necessarily wrong about that. That's just not how I would lead my interview for CEO, because he's going to need them to acquiesce in a lot of ways to become the manager. That's basically the plan, is make me CEO, I'll fire everyone, and we'll have higher earnings per share. That's his
yeah.
plan, and that in turn will drive GameStop's market cap.
Well,
Not the same, incidentally, as shareholders making money. It's just market cap. The price of the stock times the number of shares. And so we issue a shitload of shares. We buy this really huge company. We staple a bunch of debt on it, pay for the debt by firing everyone, and suddenly I'm that much closer to this $35 billion payout I get based on market cap. And the shareholders sit around and say to themselves, wow, I thought we were going to get rich too. Oh, market cap's not the same as stock price. Damn it.
so
It's a complicated thing.
you bring up a good point. He does have this very unusual compensation package where he gets a huge payout if the market cap of GameStop gets to $100 billion.
Yep.
Which right now it's at what, like, not is it?
It's less than that. Yeah. It's the going concern is probably that's like 12, 15. I mean, but 9 of that is this weird amalgamation of cash. It's really, people call it the next Berkshire, which is true in the sense that Berkshire Hathaway was a textile company that went out of business right after Berkshire bought it. You
That's
know,
a good point.
so absolutely nailed it. That part is spot on. In terms of being a time honored investment vehicle, we'll be thinking of in 50 years. We got a little runway to cover
Hey,
there.
it's a very good point. Although I would also argue, since you called GameStop sort of a mothy retailer, eBay is the mothy retailer of e-commerce, so it totally fits the same vibe. I
Yep.
do want to talk more about Ryan Cohen's history, right? Like what he's done in the past. You mentioned he's the founder of Chewy. He also was heavily involved with Bed Bath and Beyond. Why don't you walk us through all that?
I can walk you through. This is I tweeted this on August 17th, the date which will become important in a moment. It was up 37%. He took this from about $5 to the high 20s. kind of leaking the news. It spiked on this day because it was announced or leaked or somehow the world became aware of it in this most fortuitous way for his purposes, that he'd been buying call options between 60 and 80 of Bed Bath and Beyond. Now he'd been involved since March. The stock had not done well until July and August, when it just mysteriously started screaming higher. And this was the culmination of that movement higher, because if you go to the next slide, it turns out that Ryan took that opportunity to sell every penny of his position after having driven it from $5 to $28. He announced on the 17th that he had bought these calls, and then he sold all of it and made about $50 million. Angry would describe the reaction. The stock fell 40%. He got sued, of course, because there are laws, and whether or not he broke the law, this is just the kind of thing that's going to piss enough people off that you're going to end up in court. It's, to my understanding, the reason that he won was that Bed Bath and Beyond, through its own issues, but not entirely, dismissed because of what Ryan was doing, they went bankrupt. And so it turns out that there's a law where people that are close to the inside or have kind of a controlling stake in these companies have to disgorge profits if they do things like run a company up by buying a bunch of calls and then rip everyone's face off by selling them immediately. But once Bed Bath was bankrupt, and they've emerged again, but the bankruptcy thing kind of wiped that out. And so he walked, made himself about $50 million, or RC Ventures made a huge amount of money. Bed Bath and Beyond went bankrupt, and that was the end of his activism. Everyone there got fired. It's a brand new team now. Marcus Leomas, I wish them all the best. But again, the Mr. Toad's wild ride that went on in that particular stock, as I tweeted, if you were inside and kind of sitting there with Ryan in your leather jackets, just kind of being surly with each other, watching him buy and sell the calls, you probably made money. But man, it was a crazy, crazy time. That stock went again from kind of the
Uh,
mid single digits to
I'll tell you.
28 in
I'll
like
tell you.
3 weeks,
It
and
went
then
from
just
$2. It went from $2 in March to $128 in August.
Oh,
And
that was a different spike, but this was a couple years later, I believe.
no.
Really?
This is
Oh,
2020.
because they're splitting it. Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's
This is all split adjusted, by the way.
super
Yeah.
noisy. But the point is, he made he made a ton of money, and then filed within hours
Yep.
that he had sold his entire position after buying the calls. Now, people ridiculously jumped to the conclusion that him buying $60 and $80 calls meant that he was going to stick around and try to drive the stock there. That was a little like when Andrew Ross Sorkin was like, "Where are you coming up with the money?" And he's like, "I don't understand why you would think that. What do you, it's why would you think just because I bought 11% of the company, I actually intended to run it? I flipped it and made off like a bandit. It was awesome. Go Canada."
So fast forward a few years. Now he's running GameStop, right?
Yep.
He's got this weird compensation deal where he gets a lot of money,
Which is they're sitting on a ton of cash. It operates like a SPAC. This is where the Berkshire thing comes, or he's got $9 billion. He's made it into a money making venture. More than half of their income comes from it's essentially kind of a ghost of a company right now. They've got rid of most everyone. They make their money on interest, and he's got $9 billion
and Bitcoin. Don't forget Bitcoin, Jeff.
Bitcoin. Yeah. It was going to be Bitcoin. It was going to be collectibles. We've tried a bunch of different stuff. Again, none of which suggests that he's necessarily an operator. Nothing wrong with that. He's made a ton of money, and that's what he's in the business of doing. So, Godspeed, even if you're a little bit of a surly kind of cranky type guy. But, far be it for me to judge. But if you're looking to kind of ride alongside, despite the fact that GameStop has gone from, again, looked like it was going to die for a while, going out of business, losing money. Now it's making money. It's got an entirely different corporate structure. And yet the shareholders have not really benefited from his shepherding of that company at all. It's right where it was before, except now he's got this huge ass SPAC and a compensation deal that if he can drive the market cap, again, not the share price, but the market cap to 100 billion, he gets just an enormous chunk of change. So, Godspeed to him. You ride along if you want. Again, I think the performative aspect of yesterday morning on CNBC was to appeal to the roaring kitty audience, to appeal to the let's stick it to the man by by buying this stock that everyone's bankrupt. And he kind of even said so. He's like, didn't you guys predict that GameStop was going to fail? I don't personally remember Becky Quick making a short GameStop call. That doesn't sound like her, but whatever. It didn't work out quite the way people will think for a lot of those things.
I think here's the takeaway. Ryan Cohen has proven that he's very good at making money for Ryan Cohen, right? He's extremely good at making money for himself. Anyone else? Fair guess, right?
I mean, he'd be a strange friend. A lot of people, he put together kind of a pretty good executive team there at GameStop, and he kind of fired all of them right away. I'm not sure what their compensation was going out the door, but the shareholders haven't made money despite the machinations that he's done. He's turned it into a viable concern, sort of. eBay would be a huge kettle of fish. I would guess, based on what we know, I don't think he wants to run eBay. I think he would love to kind of stir the pot. Like you say, there's plenty of fleas on that dog. This is not a company that's above reproach when it comes to criticism. And so he could, in fact, rip out some expenses and do a lot. But man, it's precisely the kind of company that you don't want to lay a ton of debt on. And this is, he doesn't have the firepower to make it any sort of deal except a merger. What they would have to do is dilute the hell out of themselves and put Ryan in charge. That's what eBay would have to agree to do, based on the premise that he's going to fire all of them. It seems unlikely shareholders should vote for that. The company certainly won't, though, by themselves.
Give me a % chance that this deal actually happens.
Slim and none. And Slim is riding a horse back up to Canada wearing a cool members only leather jacket.
Okay, so none.
Pretty much none. It won't happen as is. He's got 5% of the company in calls. I would guess he flips those. Those kind of go to the benefit of GameStop, and then he thinks that makes him a good CEO because he's selling video games and flipping call options, which somehow are under the same business umbrella. It's a weird design, but that's what I think he's looking to do. Or he'll look, I think the other thing that he would want to do, and I think this is also part of the goal of the performative aspect of yesterday, was to create more of a squeeze in type of GameStop and to see that stock work, which I think is not, again, Godspeed to the investors there. They could use a little bump, but it's nice to see Ryan active, and doing stuff, keeping things interesting for guys like us.
GameStop does not have a high short interest. My first thought was, what's funny about this is kind of a win-win. It's a win. If the deal goes through, it's an obvious win for Ryan Cohen. If the deal does not go through, then GameStop is off the hook from spending all the money that they have. So they're saving their money, right? Which is, a thing that Wall Street usually likes to see. They don't like, typically on an M&A headline, they'll sell the acquiring company because they don't like it when you spend all your cash on stuff, even if you're going to borrow for it, right? So
I think there's a winner's curse aspect to it that you're missing. I think him actually getting this deal done, does he seem like he enjoys hanging out with people? Does it seem like he would want to be a CEO, like, glad handing some folks, keeping morale high? It doesn't seem like that to me. I think this has got the Paramount deal that Netflix was the big winner when that fell apart. Yeah, I think this falling apart, there's a tons of ways for Ryan to win with this deal not going through. A lot fewer if he all of a sudden figures out a way to do the swap, encumbers this tired company with a bunch of debt, and tries to just rip out expenses until they make money.
All right.
Amazon's safe. Let's put it that way. This is not Amazon might die from someone, but it's not going to be eBay.
This could have only happened with eBay, is what you're saying, right? This couldn't have happened with anybody else.
No. Well, I mean, the idea is that they're going to be an eBay competitor, that we can strap this dying video game mall store onto eBay and take down Amazon. Nah, that is less likely than this deal going through. Actually, there's 0% chance of that.
Well, I have to give Ryan Cohen props for giving us something fun to talk about and being entertaining. If not profitable, at least entertaining, right? So,
And this is the part where I got to be the old guy and say, you know what, you probably don't want to mess around with these shares based on this. Like, I would
yeah.
not, I would not bet my own money, but that's not going to change anyone's mind. And right now, there's probably angry people in the comment section saying, yeah, that's what Mackey's supposed to say. But whatever, that's fine. That's fine. Godspeed to him.
So you're not long and not short, just to be clear.
No, just blessing that little Canadian leather wearing scrapper out there being rude to people and having a good time.
Yeah, I think we learned last go around. You don't want to say anything bad about GameStop, so we're not going to do that.
I used to own GameStop. I sold it way, like ridiculously too early, and but
right.
I was long. A lot of people were long, and he wasn't alone in seeing that there was room for improvement. Same thing with eBay. So it's a nice instinct. It's just the idea that he's going to piss enough people off that they make him CEO is unusual.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jeff, great stuff. Thank you for your input. I from the moment I saw this headline, I thought, oh man, I can't wait to hear what Jeff thinks about this. He's getting all hot and bothered. I can already feel it. So
yeah, I'm surprisingly chill, right? And I mean,
right.
again, I've seen this stuff before. I enjoyed the show.
Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate it. Listen, if you want to find out what stocks Jeff actually owns in his portfolio, he just made a new trade today. Actually, he makes new trades every single week. The link is in the description on YouTube. You can get the Mackey portfolio. You can find out what he owns, what he's buying, what he's selling, new options trades all the time. He just had a big one, a company that just reported earnings that worked out very nicely for you, Jeff. So
yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Congrats on that one. It's all in there. It's all in the portfolio. You can use the link below. You can also sign up to get Jeff's free Mackey letter, where he just kind of posits on the world of consumer and retail, and it's all in there. So check it out. We'll be back next week. I guess we'll probably do a bit of an earnings preview / recap situation, because we are coming into the retail part of the earnings season. We'll talk about next week. I don't know. Or maybe my next week, maybe Ryan Cohen owns half of the S&P. I don't know. We'll find out.
I might take over a sleepy little merchant and go ahead and form myself a SPAC, and we'll talk about me going hostile on someone.
We could do that.
It seemed fun. It seemed like a good time.
All right, we'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.